Good afternoon. I will now call the training to order. Please note this training is being recorded. There are overhead mics, so it is important to avoid side conversations and stay focused on the proceedings of our training. Remember to unmute your microphone when you speak and mute your microphone when you are not speaking. This will prevent background noise from disrupting the training. Now we will move to itinerary item 2. I will turn the training over to Senator Wiener.
Thank you very much, Chair Song. Before I begin, there are a couple of housekeeping matters. You have all youth legislators have the box on. It's a belated gift from the program and from the legislature. These are your business cards. Also, you will notice that you have a copy of power presentations. You would have received this at our last training, which we had to cancel. So we are blending. Haven't done this yet. This is the first time. Blending an entire training for presentation skills with an entire training for town hall meetings. So be prepared that this is going to be Zoom, a lot of information, and it makes sense. And just collect it as best you can. You also have in your packets some materials that complement what would be both of the singular trainings that are highlights of what I will be sharing with you. And so let's move, I'm going to break it into, let's talk about power presentations first, because this is how you frame the message and the impact, and focusing a little bit on what you do to get ready and how you put it together. And the place to start with presentations is your mindset, and that often involves conquering fears. So some of the most common fears are beginning with stage fright, and typically when we think of the word fright, fear, we think of fight, flight, or freeze. Those are reactionary experiences, and they come from a base of fear, and that's not the place you want to start. You want to be proactive with how you deal with this. So to get in front of it, think in advance of the worst possible things that can happen, and use your mindset to reframe that into something positive. Because if you can think in advance about it, you're already there. You already have the capacity to manage it. Lack of experience. Please avoid telling your audience that you have no experience. There are ways you can frame it. This is my first opportunity to have a town hall meeting, and this is an exciting adventure for us all. You can say that without saying, I have no idea what I'm doing. I've never done this before, because whatever comes out of your mouth and through your body language, that sets the stage for the relationship and the level of trust that they have in you. Inadequate focus. Know your audience before you ever think of preparing the information. You are there to serve the needs of the community that is attending your town hall meeting. Know who they are and know what's important to them. Please do not presume you know. Do your advance work to determine what is important to them. And if you forget what to say, which can happen as well, be prepared in advance to be able to move forward. And that's, I'll talk a little bit later about the value, the essence, the importance of practice. Just keep focusing on what am I here to do to benefit the needs and interests of this audience. And that can help move you forward when you're anchored in that. And again, advanced preparation helps get you there. If you are poor at organizing, deficiency in organizational skills, work on it. The more you invest in that, the more it makes sense to you. Please don't wait till the last minute and hope it will all come together, because the more you work on, don't overdo it, but I doubt that that will be the case. Work on it to the extent that it flows and makes sense, and you're ready for your presentation. Audience questions. We've talked about this before. Put yourself in the 180-degree perspective of a member of the audience. What would they, if you were sitting there and you remember the audience, what would they ask you? We've talked about this with message accountability. What would they ask you? And really exhaust the list of questions they might ask you. Do this before you approach the actual event. And besides, asking the questions, spend time answering them in advance. I think I mentioned that when I spoke to 4 different classes at UNR in September, I spent hours preparing, and I've done this for a while. I had 23 pages of questions and answers. So I did not go up ill-prepared. Once in a while, you're going to get a question that you're not familiar with or you weren't prepared for. If you address the subject of that question, recognizing and honoring what is behind the content, you can, we've talked about, bridge to the substance that you want to include in your answer. But please be prepared in advance with questions and answers. This is crucial. Sometimes the audience doesn't ask any questions. You ask for it and you stand there and it can be awkward, and this can be a fear-based concern. Be prepared with some standard ways for you to get the audience engaged, such as one question I'm often asked, or one consideration that we all might want to think about. Come up with some framework where you can initiate, and then you can bring the answer to it that you want to share with the audience so that it doesn't look like you're not prepared. Preparing in terms of pre-presentation essentials, you want to know your subject. So there are different ways to do the town hall meeting. You can do a subject-based one where you have a very specific topic that you want to address, or you can have kind of getting to know the neighbors kind of a town hall meeting. And this would be, or any presentation, this can be where you're open to what they bring to it. And it's not one or the other. It can be both. You can come with something to start and then say, now I'd like to hear from you. What's, tell me what else is important to you, not what's important to you, what else is important to you, so that you're engaging them with the idea that what you did bring is also important. And so know that you are not up there as the person better than they are, but you need to be the person in the know. They need to build a trust and confidence in you to know that you're up there, you're their voice, and you are there to serve them. And this is a step to do that by listening to them. And we've talked about listening. Again, know your audience, know the dynamics. This sometimes just takes advanced work. Generally, it does. Get to know who they are before you ever walk through the door. So you can learn about the neighborhood or the geographical impacts and maybe the economic impacts and the social impacts. Get to know them, because if they know that they matter to you, they will trust you and they will pay attention to you. In generating the topic, you want to be viable, you want it to be timely, you want it to be relevant to this audience. Please don't take a topic because you really think it's great and have no idea what kind of a topic impact it may have on that population. The important thing, the thread that I keep working through this is, as I often say, public service and community service. The first word in both of those descriptors are the people to be served. They come first. That doesn't mean that the issue isn't highly relevant, but you have to make that issue relevant, create the connection of relevance for that audience and that issue, and it's your job to make the connection and be the spokesperson for the audience and also the person in the know who can answer questions about what it is you're talking about. You want it to be relevant. You want to have priorities when you're doing this. What I suggest is, whatever it is your presentation might be, if you go beyond 3 major topics, you're beyond that, you're taxing your audience. Unless 2 of them are closely related, you can go to 4 or something. But the more you remember, they may be hearing this for the first time. And so if you do more than 3, that's about what our comprehension level is. And then you're going to lose them, and you're going to lose them on the 3 that you started with. So get it down to 3 that are very, very significant. You can all just have 1 if you want, but more than 3, it's very difficult for them to comprehend that. And again, relevance. Also know that people's attention spans are very short. And the lifespan, the longevity of many topics is short. So make sure that you're timely with what it is that you're sharing in terms of the content and the topic. Make sure that your title is interesting and that they don't have to work too hard to know what it means. Sometimes being too clever can get you into trouble too. Make it relevant, meaningful, and not go on line after line after line. I know when I wrote my first book, I learned that for the publisher, I learned that the title was the grabber, and then it was the subtitle that was the content of the book. And so I do it that way if I do titles. The, meaningful, relevant title, but then if you have a subtitle, that is really what covers the content, the focus of what it is you're going to be speaking about. In terms of organizing your ideas, there are different ways to do it. I have a technique called clustering. Some people just brainstorm, but what I do is I will make a circle on a page, and I will put that, what would be the second line in my book title, and that's everything I'm going to do is going to deliver to that. So then I spoke out. It looks like, spokes, and those are the main subjects. It's like brainstorm, but you just flow. You don't, I wonder what word I should put there. You just write it down, because now you're being flow of consciousness here, stream of consciousness. And then there might be things that come under that. And all of a sudden it looks like a complicated diagramming opportunity of a sentence, if you ever learned to diagram sentences. And what happens when you do this and you leave it and you come back to it, clustering, you're going to see a lot of spokes and things. And I did that to create the entire order and structure of books, because each main one that went out was a chapter. Each thing under it was a subtitle. And sometimes it was in more than one place because it was relevant in more than one place. So it's just interesting to do it. Again, it's called clustering. It's a wonderful opportunity to just really stream it out, and things show up because you're getting out of your way. And that's just one technique that I use. There are logistics that you want to address with your presentation, and these are important. So you want a timely and meaningful topic. You want an interest-generating title, because this is your first opportunity to get to the people who you want to be there in the audience. You need to have relevant, focused objectives. What are you intending to accomplish with this? Key points, easy to remember. Please don't presume that they've heard this before. I don't treat people as ignorant or uninterested, but when I speak to an audience, I may have spoken the same presentation 100 times. And you've heard it 100 times, so yeah. That audience may be hearing it for the first time. Honor that, respect that. So every time you share this information, remember that the listener may be hearing it for the first time, and bring that high level of energy every time, because this is your one opportunity to get them on board, or to respond to them, or to engage them, or to collaborate with them. This is your opportunity to make a difference with the message. Logistically, with the packet that we gave you about the environment and some of the format and so on, you have kind of you have a script about running a town hall meeting. I'm not going to get into detail about that. You have that, but you want to know as much about the specifics of the venue as you can. I remember my very first keynote that I gave after I left Senator Reid's staff, and it was with the Chamber of Commerce here, the Women's Council. And so I went to 3 of their monthly luncheons at the hotel where they had them, so I could become familiar with the environment. And I knew it was a slower time. It was the summer. It was a great time to kick off. And then I showed up for the day I was scheduled, and they had expanded the room. And I thought, I had to make an adjustment. But had I not been there before, I would have been really shell-shocked. And then I went up to the podium, and the microphone was attached in the middle of the podium, so I couldn't have my notes in front of me. I wasn't prepared for that either, but I was so ready to talk my presentation, to share it through the spoken word, because I had done my practice. And so that's how I carried it off. If I hadn't been prepared in advance, I would have failed. And that would have been very difficult to swallow. And so what you want to do in organization, this may sound counterintuitive, but I'm going to give you an organizational look at preparing your presentation. You start with the conclusion first. And we typically think start, middle, end, right? You start at the conclusion, the close, because this is where you want to land with strength. This is the last thing. This is, they're going to hear. You need to have a strong conclusion upon which to build your presentation. This, because a lot of people start writing and then they just end when they end. And that's not what you want. That's got to be the absolute wrap up of everything you want them to hear. So you start at the end first. So there are different techniques you can use at the end that are relevant to your style. That's up to you. You don't want it to go on forever, but it needs to be relevant and strong and meaningful to the people who are hearing it. Then you write the introduction. Oh, it sounds like a sandwich, doesn't it? Conclusion, introduction. And that is what establishes the direction to get you to the end, the introduction. You don't want it to be too long. You know, you can tell a story or share a statistic or ask a question, whatever style or preference that you have. But that sets the stage. And it needs, because you've got the conclusion, you learn what it is you need to kick off with, because you know where you need to land at the end. And they need to fortify each other, complement each other. So then where do you go from there? You build the middle. And the middle is what holds them both together. The key is when you're writing, that you write with your head and your heart. So you can engage your audience intellectually, statistically, whatever. But you need to engage them at the heart level too, the human level too. No matter what, I don't know what it's like to talk to scientific communities or math communities or, the sciences, but even there you can humanize information, and it's important that you do that. And you want to create the immediate interest so that you have them. And again, the middle, that text, I'm going to give you some words that kind of to share with you that are the energy of the middle section, the internal text. Activate, motivate, entertain, inspire, instruct, persuade. These are great framing words as to what you want to do with the middle, because you've introduced it, you've got the conclusion. Now, how do I put it all together and bring those two together in the most powerful ways? And again, you want to stress benefits, if indeed that's what the subject, if you're talking about something that's meaningful to the audience, benefits to them, not so much features about you. This isn't about how great you are. This isn't a bragging opportunity. This is about taking what you know or what you've learned and putting it to work in beneficial ways for those who are listening. So in finalizing your script, you want to make sure that every word is precise and understandable. Be careful about your word choices and the appropriateness of using the words you use and proper English if you're speaking to an English-speaking audience. Positive and powerful impact words, powerful and positive impact words. Wherever you can, find ways to frame things in a positive way. Because once you get on the negative side of things, that becomes addictive and you get into the negative tone. And this isn't what you want to do with your town hall meeting audience. Avoid needless repetition. However, if repeating is essential, do it, but make it meaningful. There's a difference between meaningful repetition and, irresponsible redundancy. There's a difference. And so you want to make sure. And one that I've learned, make your sentences short enough that you can say in one breath. And if you can't say them in one breath, then put a pause, like I just did. So pausing is important. Pausing within a sentence or pausing within a word, like I just did, actually, when it's strategic, pausing can help your audience absorb the message and stay with you. Yes, it could be dramatic, but also helps them stay with you because, again, you know the information, they don't. So give them an opportunity to absorb it, maybe catch up and be with you when you start speaking again. Don't make the pauses so long that you wonder if the person went into a memory lapse. So, you need to judge and evaluate that. The importance of practice, cannot stress it enough. Cannot stress it enough. Please do not presume, oh, I know it, I'm okay. I'm there. I got it. I was a professional speaker for a very long time. I did not do ad lib presentations in front of audiences. Not to say I wouldn't be asked, but if I were asked things, it's because I've probably already spoken about it 60 times. So I wasn't winging it. I already kind of knew my message. But when it was a keynote address or it was a workshop, I spent hours getting ready. Hours. Because you want to honor those people who've shown up for you. Your job is to show up for them because they are there trusting that it will mean something to them during the time they're sharing with you. Honor that. This isn't about you. This is about honoring the relationship and that trustworthiness that they're experiencing, and you are too. Deliver. You have the opportunity to deliver. So again, practicing helps you master your effectiveness, kind of dissolve your anxieties, fine tune. It's amazing. You think, oh yeah, it's on paper. I get it. And then say it out loud and you say, I don't talk that way. So I write my presentations first and then I practice them out loud. I don't just read them because when I say it out loud, I'm a stranger to the material I just wrote because that isn't how I talk. We write differently than we talk. So make it as friendly a message vocally, through the language and the voice as you can so that it has meaning and understandability for the person hearing it, often, again, for the first time. So that would have been an entire training. Now let's move on to the town hall meeting, and I've kind of threaded it through that. Again, you have materials that we've provided on organizing and conducting, as well as a sample script. If I may share some insights to help add meaning to all of this and to the handouts. Before you utter that first word, your body language, and we talked about this with message accountability, your body language will send lots of messages before you've spoken. So know that you are on, like the camera's rolling before you walk through the door. Whenever you, even out of the car, as soon as you are observable, that you can be noticed, that you can be seen, you need to be on because people are going to watch you for the things that you didn't have in your script. So you want to maximize the first impression that you make, because that's in the first 3 to 7 seconds is your first impression. You might have maybe up to a minute or give or take to create a last impression or a lasting impression. And so you want to take advantage. And the key, please, please be authentic. Do not perform. You are not here to perform, even in these times when you don't know who's watching you. You're there to be the true you. Please do that, the genuine you. Because you know what? You don't have to keep a spreadsheet when you're that way. You don't have to say, well, this is who I was here and this is how I acted there. And just be you, be authentic. And you can grow that authenticity because you're not having to think about which performance you gave when. You're you at your best. And so just remember that. One thing you want to remember too is that you are in control of who you are and how the town hall meeting unfolds. This is something you want to plant as a seed in your thinking process. Because I strongly encourage that you come into this experience, again, before you utter your first word, well prepared. And also that's in the head, well prepared in the heart, and in your consciousness, knowing that you've done everything possible to get you to the point where you utter your first word. And you've invested the best of who you are in getting there for yourself in how you're going to present and deliver and engage, but also for those who are watching and participating as listeners. So visualization, processing success, that's very important. State of mind is very, very important. When you're working with your audience, you want to attract them as soon as you can and hold on to them. Let them know they're important. One way to do that is eye contact. Truly engage them by connecting with them through visual contact. That's very important. And I've been in audiences where I've had 1,000 people, and the first thing I do when I go on stage before I talk is I do a very slow span of the audience so that I can see everybody in that audience and they know we've connected. And then I go forward. I don't jump right away into it. I let them know the first thing that's important to me is making a connection with them. One thing that's very important too, know what you know and spend time learning what you don't. One of the things that can really throw your experience off is when you have an engagement or exchange with someone in the audience, and maybe they'll ask you a question, you don't have the answer. It's very embarrassing because if you think you should know it, but you don't, often what do? We fake them out. We stretch it. We make it up. We wing it. We do what we can to not be embarrassed. Except remember one thing, you're accountable for everything you share with them. Accountable, and as I had said once before, I think it's even in the handbook, your quotes, whatever comes out of your mouth. Now, I wrote this handbook. Well, I came up with this before we even had email. And this is advice I gave to then Congressman Harry Reid. Said, your quotes out of your mouth, through your fingers, however you transmit it now, have an infinite life. More so now than ever, and it'll only get more and more so than ever. An infinite life. Once they're out there, they're out there. Remember that before you utter your first word. Take a breath. Take that moment, because what you say is on the record. You don't know where it's going beyond that moment. Somebody with a phone, or if you're doing an email, as simple as that is, you've got blind copy and you've got forwarding. I mean, and of course with electronics, what they are in technology, infinite life. So just remember, especially in the positions you have as youth legislators, you can be cordial and welcoming and very gracious. Yes. Please do not step over and get casual to where you're not being responsible for the information you're sharing and the way that you're sharing it. This is so important. This is one of those life lessons we talk about a lot. Remember that. Also remember that people will initially engage you for what you know. They'll show up because they're curious about what you have to say. However, they're more impressed by how you deliver it. It's how you present it to them. And they're going to be watching for that. Not that they're cynics, but maybe there might be a little bit of that. So I'm going to give you, and you can write some of these down. I'm going to spend just a moment for you to pay attention to your constituents or anybody else you're working with in any environment. Psychological wants, needs, and expectations. So I'm going to give you basic needs that you can, the more you can address, the better. And I'm going to give you a couple of words that might go with that. The need to feel safe, secure, protected, or comfortable. That is a very basic need. Safe, secure, protected, comfortable. The next one, the need to belong. Probably more so now than for a long time, because of just the world we live in. So that means to be included, not excluded. Connectedness. The third, need to be presented with an opportunity. This could be a big one in your town hall meeting. The need to advance or succeed. The need to be recognized or appreciated or even loved by others. The need to matter, make a difference, or create a meaningful legacy. What will I be remembered for? And for some, the need to express themselves, assert authority, or influence issues, challenges, events, or people. So as you're growing your presentation and thinking about how to work through questions and answers as well, keep these needs in mind. And the more, some are relevant sometimes and some aren't. But when you get to really know these are essential basic needs that people have. And the more that you can address when it's relevant, when it's aligned with what you're talking about, the more connection you can make with them. Again, you've got to be authentic, and you've got to be trustworthy, and you have to be truthful. Don't just say what they want to hear. You've got to say because it's genuinely coming from you, and you can deliver on it if you're saying you're going to engage in any of those to help them experience it. Well, I'm going through an awful lot, I know. So we get to Q&A, and again, we've talked about this a lot. You can prepare in advance for that. You can prepare in advance for that. And again, if they don't ask you, say a question I'm often asked or something, and that's where you can put information out there that you want. In the actual presentation, it's very important not to read your remarks. If there's anything in your town hall meeting, you do not want to read your introduction and you don't want to read your conclusion. This is where you're making the initial connection with your audience and where you are fortifying that connection as you're wrapping it up. And in your final remarks, if you say, if you have any additional questions or have any additional concerns or something shows up, let me know and I'll look into it. What do you do after that? You look into it and you get back to them. So your word, whatever you say has its own life. If you say you're going to do something, you do it and you report it, because this is your integrity and trustworthiness on the line, and that's crucial. So you've got to honor not just your role as a youth legislator, but honor your humanity, that when you give your word, you follow through. Page after page of instruction. So what do you do with sometimes it'll happen. What do you do in the Q&A part, question and answer, if you have a hostile questioner? and they're throwing the whole thing upside down. It's been great until this person, angry person or sarcastic person, whatever, they happen. And so one thing I would suggest, having experienced this as a legislator, I don't buy into how this person is presenting a question, but I do pay attention because the audience is watching how I'm going to respond to even the most hostile person. All of a sudden, I'm the one in the spotlight. But they also don't expect you to lose control of the exchange. So often, I've had where I've had to actually graciously interrupt and say, it's important that we honor the entire audience. And so do you have a question that I can address? So you take control back, but it's how you do it. Do it in a very respectful. You don't take on the demeanor of the person who's being negative. You don't want to reduce yourself to that because the audience is looking to you to stand the high ground. And so, or you can say, I've heard what you've said, and this is what I understand, and this is my answer to that, or something. You take it back, but in an assertive but not aggressive way. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. The last thing you want to do is debate a person because it only goes downhill from there. And I was a high school debater, so I remember the rules of debate. It only goes down from there, and it becomes two people locked when you've got a whole audience of people being excluded. I'm almost done. So be prepared for bottom line responses, and again, tell the truth. I have lots more pages, but that's a good place to end. We started a little late too. That's okay. That's okay. But could I wrap 5 minutes to take questions? Okay, 3 minutes. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, thank you, ma'am. Okay, I'll take 2 questions. Anyone in the north have a question? A lot of information. Yes, go ahead.
Hi, I was wondering how you would go about finding ways and things to be, sorry, let me rephrase that. How would you get information on what your audience is going to be interested in at a town hall meeting, especially when there's so many topics? How can you help narrow it in and help find what they really want to hear?
Well, typically your town hall meetings are going to involve young people. So you possibly could reach out to students at different schools and find out from them, students you trust, what kinds of issues are a primary concern or primary talking points at those schools. You can do questionnaires. You can work through announcements at different schools, the morning announcements that announce, again, the town hall meeting's coming up, and anyone who has something that they would like to discuss to find a way that they could submit it or email it to your youth legislature address. There are a lot of ways to solicit, and I think we even have where they can, if you want to be totally open and not subject oriented, they can come with a question and put it in a box at the town hall meeting, and you can draw the questions, and so that you're not prioritizing. You pull them out of the box, they've dropped them in as they walk in, or you give them 3 minutes to do it during the town hall meeting, and then you pull them. You don't know what they are, you just pull that so-and-so or XYZ person asked this question, and that's an example of why you have a lot of preparation to do to come up with possible questions that you could be asked and not get caught off guard. Because that way you're not filtering, you're not being an editor on that. You're being totally open with the audience when you pull it and you've never seen the question before. We probably have because you're prepared, but that's another way to do it. So get the pulse of your district. Does that help a little bit?
Yes, thank you.
Take one down the south. Anyone? Yes.
Youth Legislator Carmina Martinez here. First of all, I just want to say I really appreciated your training. It was very informative and captivating. I was drawn to your advice to start with the conclusion. I was wondering if you could provide like an example or something like that you usually do, because I think it's something people don't normally do, and I want to know how I can do that more. Thank you.
There are a lot of techniques you can bring into the conclusion. It could be a summary statement. In the last 30 minutes that we've spent together, one point has been central to everything we've talked about. And so that would be the one overall conclusion that you want to leave with them. You can actually end with a major question that captures everything. You can end with a statistic. You can also use these techniques in the introduction too. But the key with the conclusion is, as you get to know your subject, what do I want them to leave with? And often in a conclusion, I will create an action step. This is what you can do when you go home, or this is what you can do in the next hour. So sometimes I'll include a directive. So now that we've worked on this, what next step are you going to take? And do it as a question. Or I can say, when you leave, these are 3 things, and that could summarize. These are 3 things that we've talked about. Which one do you want to start with? There are plenty of different ways to do it, but that is the final impact and impression you leave on them. That's why it needs to be so bold and powerful and meaningful. And then you build into it from the introduction to the middle conclusion. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for your patience.
Thank you, Senator Weiner. We appreciate the information and the thoughtful gift of your advancing yourself through Power Presentations Handbook. Moving on to itinerary item 3, I am pleased to welcome Senator Dondero Loop and Assemblymember Hansen to our training. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. We will break into discussion groups for 30 minutes. Youth legislators received a playing card when entering the committee room today. Please look at your card and find the suit and the number on your card. The suit indicates your group, and the number indicates the question you will ask during the discussion. You will find the questions on the document labeled Legislator Discussion Groups. Please take this document with you when we break into our groups. Diamonds will go to room 164 with Senator Dondero Loop. Spades will move to the audience area in this room for a discussion with Assemblymember Hansen. And hearts will go to the front of room 165 with Senator Weiner. At 3:51, youth legislators will stay in their groups and begin itinerary item 4, presentation skills practice and review. For this itinerary item, we will have an opportunity to practice the skills we learned today. In the training packet, should I stop?
Keep going.
Sorry. For this itinerary item, we have an opportunity to practice the skills we learned today. In the training packet, you will find a document titled Role-Playing Activity. Please refer to it now. In our groups, each youth legislator will give a 1 to 2 minute presentation about a youth-related issue for which they would like to advocate. After each presentation, our fellow group members will point out the positive aspects of the presentation and offer advice for improvement based on what we learned today. The number of the playing card you received indicates the order of the presenters. Please take the legislator discussion groups and role-playing activity documents with you, join your groups, and return to your seats at 4:20. We will now move on to itinerary item 5, NYL alumni suggestions regarding presentation skills and town hall meetings. Today, we will hear from 2 former youth legislators, Dylan Moss and Sebastian Rios. Before we begin, please tell us one significant way that NYL has enriched your lives beyond participation in the program. Mr. Moss, we'll start with you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you. I'm very happy to be here today. Thank you for the invitation to be back with you all so soon. I think I was with you guys, last month, was it? But I'm very excited to be here with you all. So thank you. It's a good break from my day-to-day. To your question, Chair, the program has done so much for me since I left it in 2023, since my term ended. The one thing it has enriched my life in has increased the drive for public service in me. Since leaving the program, I have gone on to serve in various capacities, whether that be with nonprofits such as Public Service NV or Nevada Boy State, but also serve in different levels of government, such as student government. And I think the NYL taught me the importance of student government and public service. And I think that public service has driven my passion to also become an educator and a teacher as well. And I wouldn't have received, or those passions wouldn't have been emboldened without the Nevada Youth Legislature. So that's kind of how it's enriched my life, and thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rios, please let us know how the NYL program has enriched your life.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good afternoon, everybody. Pleasure to be here with you all today and sit on this side of the table once again. It's a wonderful expedition, and thank you for the wonderful question. How has the NYL enriched my life? Specifically, I would say, along with everything that Mr. Moss has shared and growing that passion for public service, definitely it is and through the discovery of passion for policy work. So just to share a little anecdote, during my time, the NYL education policy was my primary issue of focus. I worked a lot with different state commissions, and I actually wrote my BDR surrounding community service in allowing individuals to gain access to elective credits for community service. And so I kind of knew from the get-go that I wanted to dive into education policy. And the NYL opened those doors for me. I was able to maximize my time as a youth legislator and as that representative. And I think really it's a wonderful responsibility and duty that you all have, right? Each of your Senate districts representing, in some cases, tens of thousands of youth. And so really taking that time and understanding the duty and the responsibility that your office holds is important. And in doing so, you're going to complete different items. You're going to complete your town halls. You're going to complete your research process. And some of that research may be quantitative with surveys and such, but some of it's going to be qualitative, talking with your constituents, right? Your fellow students in your district. And you're going to gain so much from going into your high schools and going outside of your high schools and finding out what youth in your district care about. So understanding the policy process, and more specifically, not just the legislative side, but the human side, where issues come from. They come from people. And so finding those genesis points is truly powerful, and it showed me a lot on how real change is made at the legislative level and at the individual level.
Thank you. We are now ready to proceed with the discussion. Youth Legislator Boulware, I believe you have questions for Mr. Moss.
Youth Legislator Boulware here. And Mr. Moss, my question is, what is your greatest fear to public speaking, and how do you prepare yourself to resolve this fear and move forward?
Wonderful. Thank you, former Youth Legislator Moss, for the record. Thank you for your question, Youth Legislator Boulware. When it comes to my greatest fear with public speaking, frankly, it's the getting started for me. Obviously, public speaking can be nerve-wracking, can heighten your emotions, that kind of stuff. But when it comes to public speaking, I really think the hardest part and my greatest fear is the getting started. As soon as we get up, or at least me, when I get up in front of a group, whether that's constituents, whether that's my team that I work with, or those kind of things, whether it's my students in the classroom, it's mainly just getting up and starting to speak. And once we get into that rhythm of speaking and getting up there and knowing what you're going to talk about, that really starts to melt away the fear for me. It's about getting into a rhythm for me. It's about being prepared first and foremost. If I'm speaking on a subject, I like to prepare my remarks before. If I'm speaking to a group of people, I like to research the group of people I'm speaking to. That way, I know who I'm talking to, and I know how to best approach them and how I'm giving my remarks, and that helps alleviate the stress beforehand. But like I said, my greatest fear is just the nerves that you get when you start. But thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moss. I have a question for Mr. Rios. What is the most important aspect of preparing your presentation, and what is the most difficult challenge for you, and how do you work through it?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I really want to dive into a little bit of something that I heard Mr. Moss share that I really liked, which is knowledge, having knowledge about something. And one of the lessons I remembered from our trainings with Senator Wiener was that she always advocated this idea of trying your best to become an expert about something you're presenting, because to the audience, when you're presenting something, they're going to look at you as an expert. So I'll give you a scenario. During my town hall, I focused on that bill idea that I mentioned earlier, right? Elective credit for youth. And so I was talking about the history of elective credit and the history of community service credit for students. And it was very important that I actually knew what I was talking about and that the information was factual, thorough, comprehensive, and clear. And in turn, that was the expectation, right? They expected me to have answers to some of their specific questions. And so there is a responsibility whenever you present about anything to, quite frankly, know what you're talking about and know it well enough so that at the cusp of the moment, if you get asked a question about something, you can dive into it more. It's very easy to get on and share a slideshow and run through the slideshow and just read the slides. Anyone can do that. But what not everyone can do is take a slideshow with maybe a few words on it and dive into each of those sporadic on the moment and respond to questions live in the moment. Only those who have truly researched the matter and understand it completely from all sides and all viewpoints have that perspective. So that definitely is probably, for me, one of the most important things. And the second part of the question, what is the greatest fear? This also goes back to an activity we learned with Senator Wiener, and I'm not sure, I think y'all should have done this, but we had the 3 questions and answers. They still do that? Excellent. That activity for me was, and they were all valuable, but for me, one of the most valuable activities that I did over my entire time as youth legislator, because it showed me the real fear of sitting in a room, presenting something, and then being asked a question that you just don't know the answer to. And because you don't know the answer to, you don't want to answer it because you don't want to give wrong information. So for you're presenting about youth mental health and you get a question about a specific statistic you presented that you don't know, that's scary and that hurts credibility sometimes. So the best way to do that is to sit down and get ahead of the question, right? So think about what are the 4 top questions that someone's going to ask you that you maybe don't want to get. I'll give you an example for when I went through my process in advance for the town hall. I went to the advisors at my school and I said, okay, I am a youth public figure. I want you to ask me very tough questions. And the question that I got from one of them was, all right, Youth Legislator Rios, let's just say that you're in a high school and you're putting forward a policy presentation. Now, what if the majority of students in that high school don't like the idea? What if your viewpoints are in opposition to the viewpoints of your constituents? What do you do? That's a very tough question. Very tough question. To come up with something on the moment is difficult. That's why you plan ahead. And you think about, well, honestly, what are my values as a person? How would I respond to that question? So think about those and you can get ahead of that. But for me, it's tough when those questions come up and you're not ready. Now, not to say you can come up with every single question anyone's ever going to ask you. It's not possible. There's not enough time in the universe to do that. But you can at least make an attempt and try to be as thorough, as comprehensive as possible.
Thank you, Mr. Rios. Youth Legislator Knoll, do you have questions for Mr. Moss?
Yes, I have one question for Mr. Moss. What is the ultimate purpose of town hall meetings for both the host and the attendees? To maximize this experience for everyone involved, what is the most important consideration in planning and preparing for a town hall meeting?
Wonderful. Thank you, Youth Legislator Knoll, former Youth Legislator Moss for the record. That's a really great question. When I went through my town hall a number of years ago, the main thing that I wanted to carry with me and that I'd want to help point you to as public servants is that even though we are empowered by our positions to act as representatives, our first duty as representatives of our students, and I've taken this with me being a senator for the College of Education at UNR and as deputy speaker of the ASUN Senate, this is where I've applied this the most. But our first and foremost duty is to listen. That is the purpose of a town hall meeting, truly, is to listen to your constituents and to really feel out how they're feeling. I'll give an anecdote regarding my town hall meeting back when I was a youth legislator. I went into my town hall thinking I knew what I was talking about. I had an idea of what I thought I was going to hear, and I had an idea of what I wanted to bring to the table for my BDR. When I got to my town hall, I opened it up mainly as a open forum. I gave a mic to the crowd and said, I'm here to listen and to provide commentary on your questions and your concerns, but I want to hear straight from you about what issues are affecting you. The main issues I thought I was going to hear were about mental health, education policy, things we'd hear from students in Senate District 14. What I ended up hearing was the issues of gerrymandering, affordability, other issues regarding redlining policies in local and city government. I was shocked, needless to say, about what I was hearing from my constituents. I didn't think I was going to hear these issues. I didn't think they mattered to our students, but they did. They were passionate about how they felt our state and states around us were gerrymandering their states. They were passionate about affordability, how even in high school, school and education was becoming unaffordable. And that was back in 2023, 2022. And so I walked away from that town hall just in awe of my constituents and saying, wow, I really appreciated the opportunity to listen to my constituents and to really understand where they're coming from, because I was prepared to bring forward a piece, a BDR, about mental health, but I ended up bringing up a piece of legislation about subsidies for dual credit enrollment so that everyone had a fair shot at getting a college education. Obviously, my BDR didn't make the final cut back in 2023, but it was such a transformative experience. And that anecdote really highlights how listening is our key job as a representative of our constituents. And the most important thing to consider when planning it is to be open. One of my favorite quotes from Senator Wiener, and I have this framed on my desk actually, is be open to the bigness and greatness of the future. That quote applies to this as I encourage you all when planning your town halls to be open. To be open to what you're going to hear. Obviously, you have your convictions, you have your beliefs, and I encourage you to stick by your convictions and your beliefs. That's what makes you, you. But also be open to what your constituents have to say, because you truly could have an amazing experience like I did with my town hall and just listening to what they want. And that's kind of our job as legislators, first and foremost, is to bring forward what our constituents want. Sorry, that was a long-winded answer. I'm kind of a yapper sometimes, but that's what I think in regards to town halls. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Moss. Youth Legislator Sharma, please share your question with Mr. Rios.
So this is my question for you, Mr. Rios. How do you engage your audience in meaningful ways during and following the town hall meeting?
Thank you, Legislator Sharma. Excellent question. Because I mentioned earlier, it can be very easy to get up and have your slide deck and have your statistics and run through it. And as an audience member, put yourselves in their shoes, right? So what is something that you can keep them engaged? Because when someone is engaged, they're listening, they're caring, that's buy-in. And when someone is disengaged, they're just present. And as youth legislators, the core goal of the town hall is to listen, and 100% agree with Mr. Moss on that. Can't agree with him more on the fact that listening should be your core goal with this. And so by opening the town hall and ensuring that individuals have a chance to discuss and bring ideas forward to the table is the best way to ensure engagement. Because yes, on part, we're there to inform them about maybe an issue or a set of issues that we want to talk about and run by them as members of the public. But mainly, the spirit of public service is it's in the first word, public, right? We're here for them, not for ourselves. And so if you have that and you keep that mindset, you're never going to be steered wrong. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult for individuals to come up and get on the mic. And so something I did with the town hall that I ran was I organized breakout sessions. And so gauge the number of individuals that may be coming. If you only get 3 individuals that might come, which is excellent. It's hard to do a group item, but hopefully if you get a good number of youth and educators and individuals that are involved in your communities that you're bringing your town hall to, organize something to keep that engagement with them. So whether that be a breakout session, whether those be prompted questions that you ask them during your presentation section, keep that too. Anything that involves you hitting mute on your microphone is good during the town hall. That's something that's allowing them to engage directly with the information you're presenting them. And I would also urge you, if you plan to share anything in specific, have time for reflection on that item. So I presented about the history of elective credit, and then I had an open group session with 4 questions, and they went into different groups. And in my case, I had reached out to some of my state legislators, and so I had 2 state legislators join the town hall. And I think that's so recommended. Reach out to your legislators and ask them to join the town hall, because they also are going to be able to chime in on those issues. And it helps them too, because hopefully you're building good rapport with these individuals. And so if they hear that the community they represent, individuals in their constituency, have the same concerns as the individuals in your constituency, because we're all representing together, right? Then that means they're probably, hopefully, cross fingers, going to be more willing to work on those specific items with you. So just engage them and make sure you're hearing them and authentically be present, right? Don't just open up the question line and then go and start working on something else. And no, you're present to hear them speak. This is a town hall, right? Not just presentation night. This is your town hall. You're here to hear what your constituency group has to say. So really be there, authentically be there, hear everything, and engage them when you can. Share stories. 20 statistics in a row can get boring. Share anecdotes. Those kinds of things can keep the audience involved and engaged.
Thank you, Mr. Rios. Youth Legislator Sullivan has a request for both of our NYL alumni mentor trainers. Please proceed.
Okay, my question is, are there any additional insights or suggestions about preparing presentations and hosting town hall meetings, or something, just anything interesting about yourselves that you'd like us to remember?
Okay. For the record, I was just asking Chair Song, do you want me to go first or Mr. Rios? So I'll go first if that's okay, Mr. Rios. Okay.
Please do.
Wonderful. Former Youth Legislator Moss, for the record. Thank you, Youth Legislator Sullivan, for your question. For the first part of your question, I want to just implore you, and I'm sure Senator Wiener has taught you these skills. I can't remember the order of the trainings from when I was in the Youth Legislature, but I want to implore you to be honest with your constituents. I believe you've had a training on message accountability. Yeah, I'm seeing head nods. Wonderful. As Senator Wiener says, when we speak or put something out there, it takes on a life of its own. It's no longer owned by us, if that makes sense. So I implore you to be honest at your town halls. If someone asks you a question that you don't know, don't try to make up an answer on the spot. If someone asks you a question, and you don't know the answer, say, you know what, I don't know about that, but let me do some research and get back to you. That is way more impactful than if you tried to make up an answer on the spot. I've done that so many times in my life of public service, my 21 years of public service. That's what I've taken with me. I've used it, and then to prove that you're a diligent and dedicated public servant, the follow-up is just as important. If you say to somebody that you are going to get back to them on an issue that they ask you about at your town hall, get back to them. After your town hall's over, find that person, get their contact info, exchange contact info so that you guys can talk, so that you can get back to them. That honesty sets you apart as a public servant. Make sure you're being honest and truthful with your constituents because they are depending on you to represent their voices at this building and at this table. And you guys have the amazing opportunity that only 21 youth out of so many, I'm not even going to try to pick a number out of the air, so many in our state. You have such an amazing opportunity to utilize your voice. I implore you to use it well, use it honestly, and be dedicated in your mission when you use it. And to your second question, Youth Legislator Sullivan, something interesting. Do not squander the opportunities you have here. Please, please, please continue to be public servants after your time in the youth legislature. I don't think you've hit halfway at this point, but please do not forget the lessons you've learned here. Do not forget the skills you've gained here. I've taken them with me through my entire life after being in the Nevada Youth Legislature. I've gone on with the spirit of public service this program has given me. I've gone on to serve in different capacities. I've gone on to be an ASUN senator for UNR, and now because I want to be a public servant, I'm now campaigning to be president of UNR. And that's only because of the passion this program gave me. So please carry with that passion with you. As you know, former youth legislators, I'm sure Mr. Rios can speak to it as well when he answers these questions, but please continue to be passionate because this state needs your passion and they need young civic leaders like you. So please, please, please keep being the amazing leaders you are. And thank you, Chair Song.
And thank you for the wonderful question. And 100% agree with everything Mr. Moss shared, especially on that last bit. This 2 years that you're here for, it's going to go by incredibly fast. You all, it's already February. We're nearing that halfway point, and because we're not meeting weekly or bi-weekly, the time goes by very quickly between meetings. And life happens, and you're all busy and involved and active high schoolers, and so I know each day feels like a blink of an eye. But this is a truly special role, and I say it only lasts 2 years, and you might think 2 years is a really long time. It really is not. It goes by exceptionally quickly. So you have a wonderful mission, a wonderful charge that you've been appointed for in an official capacity as representatives for the youth community in the state of Nevada. There's no other program like this in the nation. So really once in a lifetime opportunity, maximize it. I also have been following the work for the ASUN, Mr. Moss. And so I am involved down here with our southern branch of Consolidated Students University of Nevada, Las Vegas, CSUN. And so I just wanted to mention that and say we love our student governments. And that wonderful example that he shared, yes, I'm involved in our campus as well and a first year student. And I'm always looking for chances to be involved and use those skills that Senator Wiener taught me. So always, always, always use those opportunities. And I know that was kind of answering the second question first, but I wanted to mention those things because Mr. Moss gave such a wonderful response there and I wanted to back him up on those 100%. Ditto. Now the first question, for any other insights. I know I mentioned earlier, reach out to any community groups. I remember, I didn't do this for my town hall, but I remember a wonderful youth legislator, Wynn, who had the police department show up with their community engagement office at her town hall. And she invited a lot of people to her town hall, as I did to mine. Invite each other to your town halls to listen. The goal is not that, it's just youth legislators talking to each other, but invite you fellow youth legislators to listen and be there just as kind of flies on the wall to hear what youth around the state are talking about, especially if it's in a virtual setting. Invite your legislators, invite educators. I assume some of you have some education bill ideas because that's kind of how it rolls with different youth legislators. I see some nods up north and down south. Make sure you invite not just students and it's very clear because you guys are representing the youth community, but also educators, and you speak to the educators that are going to actually be making these things happen, right? Because that happened with my bill. I originally wanted to add a whole new diploma type, and I had this wonderful idea about the community service diploma, and everyone was going to be excited and happy. And then I found out that the state of Nevada was currently bringing down the number of diplomas in the state of Nevada, and that was not going to be happy-go-lucky, everyone's excited. No, in fact, that allowed me to pivot and change to an elective credit that was much more agreeable to on part of the Department of Education. I would have known none of that if I spoke to just students and didn't ask educators. So really bringing all constituency groups around the issue that you plan to bring up. And it always helps to have more voices in the room. It's never going to hurt you to hear from more individuals. As a youth legislator, the more voices you hear from, the more comprehensive your solution is going to be, and the more people it's going to help at the end of the day. So always strive to have that variety of voices in the room and variety of perspectives. So with that, I think that was all I had to share. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Moss and Mr. Rios. We appreciate you sharing your time, experiences, and perspectives. Your insights will help us elevate our own presentations and town hall meetings. The next order of business is item 6, which is a preview of upcoming NYL activities and trainings. Today, we learned about presentation skills and town hall meetings. A paired activity regarding town hall meetings is included in our training folders. Please contact the partners listed on the paired activity document and complete this activity by February 21st. Our town hall meeting plan is due to Senator Wiener, the legislators representing our districts, and Tina Ashdown by March 7th, and our town hall meeting reports are due April 20th, 2026. Our next meeting and training is scheduled for Wednesday, April 15th, 2026. During our meeting, we will elect the officers for the 2026-2027 term and discuss the content for the Nevada Youth Legislature Annual Report to the Governor. I look forward to seeing you all there. I will now turn the training over to Senator Wiener as we move on to itinerary item 7, questions, comments, and discussion.
Are there any questions, comments, or do you want to discuss? We had a very, very full day today. So are there any questions or curiosities about, yes, Youth Legislator Boulware?
When you were talking to our group earlier, you mentioned that one of your fears when public speaking is someone who's hostile. Given the current separation within politics, how would you address that and make sure you can talk to both sides and come at it as a way that doesn't appear hostile, even if people on both sides or in the middle are hostile?
This is where you can get in front of that to some extent by including in your own presentation something that this is an open forum, and you are inviting people to share their ideas and their concerns, and that it's a forum that is essential that everybody respect everybody, meet people where they are. And so if you set up the parameters and kind of the rules, the loving rules for the experience you're sharing, if something shows up and it's very hostile, you've already established the foundation so you can step in and say, you know, as we agreed, and even you can say, does everyone agree with that? Kind of like in a non-signed agreement, right, or unsigned agreement. But that's something everybody's agreeing to, so that if somebody violates that, then you have a legitimate reason in a very loving, kind, respectful way to step in and say, you know, this goes beyond what we've agreed to, so we need to move on, or something. You know, practice something that's comfortable for you to say, but the key is to establish the game rules of mutual respect and trust and honesty and all those qualities that you'd like to engage in the town hall meeting. And then the rules are set. And then you have the opportunity to step in a very respectful way if something goes off, you know, off the road there. Youth Legislator Sullivan, I believe you had a question.
Yes, I do. Thank you, Senator Wiener. My question is, I meant to ask this earlier. If you are hosting a town hall, and town halls are, at least to some extent, scripted, and you're trying to balance scriptedness with authenticity, what's the best way to do that?
Balance script and authenticity. No, right. We provided a template for the script and running the town hall meeting. That's just to give you an idea what it could look like. That is not prescribed in any way. You heard me several times say authenticity. You heard our alums say authenticity. Authenticity is something that we thread through everything we do. When you can bring your genuine self, then again, you're not keeping a scorecard as to which you brought to which form or which question. So you have to really know your core values, who you are, and create that authenticity, and know your character. What qualities are you bringing? So that threads through everything. And when you're consistent with the core values that you bring, to whatever engagement you have, we're talking about town hall meetings right now, but to whatever experience you had, then you bring the continuity of character of who you are. So when you bring, again, your best self and those core values, there are so many, to every experience, then you're working at the highest level of performance, no matter what experience you have. Does that help a little bit?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Yeah, it really starts with knowing who you are. Who are you? And what values do you bring to the experiences? We start with our isness before we can then do something with it. But we need to know who we are. And then knowing and being anchored in who we are, what do we choose to do with it? So every morning I ask out loud so I can hear it, feel the vibration of my voice. What is mine to be and to do today? One day at a time, one decision at a time. Do we have any, we can do one more question if we have it. We're kind of running tight to the clock here. Anyone else in the north? Okay, we need to wrap up. So Chair Song, please.
Thank you, Senator Wiener. That concludes the training for today. Please take the meeting and training materials out of your meeting folders and pass the empty committee folders to the right before you leave. Thank you, everyone.